four-wheel peel on me.
This is the 2024 Jeep Wagoneer S, which is Jeep's first battery electric vehicle here in North America. And in this video, I'm going to cover the exterior, the interior, take it for a drive and see what it's like out on the road, as well as talking about the kind of efficiency and range you can expect, and also the pricing and how it compares to the competition. So as far as the Wagoneer S, well, yes, even though this is a 2024 for this launch edition, obviously we're filming this in 2025. We'll get, some details here on 2025 shortly, but these launch editions are in fact 2024s. Now, as far as the styling on it here, I really love the styling. It's very sleek, very aerodynamic, has a 0.29 drag coefficient, and has some really cool aerodynamic tricks that I'll talk about here in a second. But up front there, I love how you have the 7-slot grille. In theory there, obviously there is no grille needed for this electric vehicle, but it retains that signature Jeep trait, but it's backlit at night and it's really cool looking. I also love the slender headlights there and just a very sleek nose on this vehicle. Now, as far as sizing goes, it actually is about 5.4 inches longer than a Tesla Model Y, but it's about the same width and height as a Model Y for reference. Now, if you're used to the Jeep Grand Cherokee for reference, this is 1.1 inch shorter than the Grand Cherokee on a 3.7 inch shorter wheelbase. It's also about an inch narrower and about 6 inches lower than a Grand Cherokee. So that's going to be the real big differentiator, is just how low this is. Now, you still have great interior space, which we'll talk about in a minute, but really gives this, a sportier vibe than Grand Cherokee especially. That sportier vibe also comes at the cost of ground clearance. We have about 6.4 inches of ground clearance here. There is no air suspension or any way to, raise this up or make this any more off-road ready. You do have drive modes to help. But this is mostly a street-based vehicle here, and of course does have all-wheel drive and all that to help you out, whenever you are in snowy conditions and mild, dirt trails, things like that. But anyway, coming down to the sides here, you have some nice blacked out wheels here on the launch editions of these. And it's also cool how all of these, at least for the launch edition again, have a blacked out roof, and that is a two-tone combo that you have on all of these. And so it looks really great here with the blue, but especially really stands out with the silver and the white. And it's a really cool design touch. I also love how, going back down to that D-pillar there, you can see there's a little Wagoneer S logo and kind of a floating roof kind of pattern there. But going out to the back, the most dramatic thing here is that giant spoiler there in the back. And that was done to, give this a more traditional SUV kind of shape, while still having that pass through for the air to give you that great low drag coefficient there. But it's a really cool trick and really is dramatic. And coming up on the back of this thing, it really makes a statement and is very, very cool. I also love the full width tail lamps you have there, very slender. And I also like how you have a little bit of an integrated rear spoiler built into that trunk lid there. And a really nice look out back. And so overall, from every angle, I think this thing is really distinctive, very futuristic. Looking at it, it does look like it's electric and it's very futuristic in that way, but still just, gives you that same recognizable Jeep, kind of design language that you're used to here. And overall, I think they did a great job here on the Wagoneer S. The interior of the Wagoneer S is a really impressive interior in my opinion. Lots of soft touch materials. You have some metal, you have, some nice padding. Lots of really cool stuff here to go over in this interior. Lots of screens, of course, as well. But anyway, the first thing up, sitting down in these seats, you have these synthetic leather seats. There is no real leather in here. That was a conscious decision. They decided they wanted to, not use any of that. They also have a bunch of recycling. So for example, the carpet and all the fabrics you see in here are 100% recycled. And even like these synthetic suede you have here for the headliner, for example, which is a very premium touch, by the way, but that is also like 62% recycled. So, a little bit more of an eco focus here with this vehicle, which is cool. But anyway, getting back to these seats, it's still a very premium, very silky feeling material here for these synthetic leather seats, and they're really soft and comfortable. They're nice and squishy, very plush feeling, and should be really nice to spend a lot of time in. We'll see as we drive today. But they're heated and ventilated here in this top launch edition version, and they also have massage, which is something that most other EVs in this segment, I think basically everything, doesn't really have massage outside of maybe the Cadillac Lyriq, but really nice. And there's a bunch of different programs. It's a very advanced massage too. It's not just some basic lumbar thing. Like, it is a very advanced, very nice feeling massage. And so really, really nice seats. They also have adjustable bolstering for these. There's adjustable thigh support, as well as, of course, the usual lumbar adjustment, and just really, really nice seats. Very impressive. Next is the steering wheel, which is also very cool. Has a flat bottom to it, but also a squared off top. And that was one thing that was very important to them, so that you have good visibility of the gauge cluster, which is a problem with a lot of these vehicles with screens for gauges, is that oftentimes the steering wheel cuts it off. They didn't want that to be the case here. So we still have, you know, a usual feeling wheel as far as the 9-3 grip and the 10-2 notches goes, but having that squared off top really helps. And yeah, I'm glad they made that choice. We also have just a few buttons here on it, just basic plastic buttons. That is an area where some other competitors have more impressive materials there, but the great thing is you still have the little rocker switches here on the back of the wheel, and that's really great for changing volume, tuning radio stations. You know, they wanted to still retain all of those physical controls. We still have headlight controls. We still have all these things instead of everything being thrown into the screen. We even have like volume and tune knobs. I'll get to that in a second, but you know, it's great to have some real switches and knobs here in this vehicle, because that is a luxury in and of itself these days, honestly. But anyway, moving on to the gauge cluster here, the first of the 4 screens we have here. So technically 5, I guess, if you count the rearview mirror. But as far as the gauge cluster here, it's a 12.3-inch display, and it's really nicely done. It's pretty simple with the layout here. You have 4 different layouts to choose from. You can have, you know, the traditional kind of round pods, or you can have just the info laid out without the pods. You can have a very simple view, or you can have a map view, which is certainly nice, especially if you're in an area you're unfamiliar with. To have that right in front of you is great. And, you know, all the basic info there whenever you scroll through, you know, the various different little pages, all the same stuff you're used to from any other Stellantis vehicle in the past several years, and really nicely done there. You also do have a 10-inch head-up display here in this launch edition. Now, moving over to the center of the dashboard here, I first have to say it's really impressive how low this dashboard is, and also that the screens are actually integrated into the dashboard. Another novel idea that a lot of vehicles, especially in the EV segment, don't do anymore. Everyone just you know, plasters a giant tablet in the interior and calls it done. And you know, the fact that this is all integrated is, again, another kind of luxurious, more polished approach, in my opinion, and is really impressive these days. I really love that. And anyway, coming down though, you have another 12.3-inch screen here, and again, has the volume and the tune knobs, and also little button shortcuts on the sides there for just, you know, doing your heated steering wheel, your heated and cooled seats, you know, right there, instead of having to dive into a submenu. Now, that is also available in the screen here if you'd like, but, you know, just again, regular button shortcuts. You know, with many other vehicles doing, you know, multiple taps required to turn on a heated steering wheel, for example, and things like that. I love, again, the quick shortcuts here. Now, as far as the system, it's the Uconnect 5 screen, and that's whole software, which is good. It has wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, has satellite radio, and, you know, all the usual stuff you're expecting there. And it's really nicely arranged and laid out, very easy to use. Again, especially with that tune knob there, changing radio stations and all that is especially easy. The only thing about this system is that it still is occasionally slow. And in 2025, that's not really acceptable to have any kind of lag whatsoever, usually in these screens, especially, you know, compared to a lot of the competitors that are, you know, lightning quick. This, sometimes I can catch it off guard. Not all the time, but sometimes. And so that's the only thing about this that's, you know, not super impressive, but otherwise, you know, everything is really nicely arranged. It's nice. You also have the electric vehicle page. You can, you know, set charging schedules. You can, you know, go through and see, you know, a variety of different menus and stuff. The navigation all works very well, and you can, you know, bring up charging stations and all that. And, you know, just a really nicely done screen, I think, as long as, you know, the lagginess is something that gets improved, maybe with a software update over the air or something. Hopefully that will be improved in the future. But otherwise, you also, going over to the passenger side here, on the launch editions, all of them get this passenger display as well. It's a 10.25-inch display and does mostly the same stuff as the driver's display here. You know, it's kind of debatable whether or not that is truly, you know, helpful. Now, one nice thing is there is an HDMI input here, and so you can actually plug in, you know, like a streaming stick or, you know, any other video source you want, and actually, you know, watch stuff for that passenger there on that display. The only thing about that passenger display, though, is that it is kind of a little bit of a glare on that screen, and, might not be the best thing to view. And it's debatable, is that preferable to just having an iPad in your hand? I don't know. That'll come down to the buyer, I suppose. I also don't love how this whole thing is very reflective. And so that passenger display, being all piano black, glossy, could have some instances where it's a little blinding there, for that passenger as well. But anyway, that little screen, they can pull up like charging stations, for example. So if the passenger wants to, research that stuff there on their own display, they can do that there instead of reaching over to the middle screen, and they can change radio stations from there, do basically everything, at least as far as the main core functions that you can do on the middle screen here. And, a nice thing, although I'm anxious to see, a lower version of these in the future that, probably gets rid of that at a nice cost reduction. So we'll see. But anyway, coming down to the final main screen here is another 10.25 inch screen for your HVAC controls. Now, again, you still do have some regular, hard buttons for these things here right beneath that main screen. But, it is nice to have, a little bit of extra redundancy down here. And that's also where you'll control your massage functions and a few other basic things there, and it's a really nice extra screen. Certainly makes us feel a little more futuristic and modern, having that. And that nice thing though is if you don't really have to use this screen, if you'd like, you can also just slide it up, and then you have another nice big bin here. It's got some felt lining to it, and you'll see that HDMI port I mentioned, as well as 2 USB-C jacks in there, which is great. Moving on to the other storage spaces here, you of course have your 2 cup holders by this very nice shifter with this actual metal finish to it, and just so cool with the design of that. Another nice little switch here for your drive mode selector, and then in the doors you have a nice large bottle holder and extra pocket there. And then coming back to the middle, you have this nice soft center armrest, and you also will see you can open it up and have a nice deep space there. It also has another power outlet in there, a regular power outlet, and then you also do have a wireless phone charger here as standard. And it's really nice how it's rubberized and has these like little clamps to hold it in place, and that part is also not covered by the center armrest, so you can reach your phone in there and get to it without having to open up this whole thing, which is certainly nice. The other little thing I'll mention though in this area is you do have like wrapped surfaces for like this center console, which is very nice, except it's hard. I was hoping this would be padded a little bit, because when I rest my knee on here, it's not very luxurious feeling. Now, admittedly, many of the other luxury competitors, both electric or gas, sometimes often still have the same kind of thing where it's still hard. But some of the, newest stuff is a little bit more plush here. And so that's the only little thing I'd like to see, is a little bit more padding there. But otherwise, very impressive up front here. I like this little pattern that isn't piano black, thankfully, around the shifter, and some really nice other material choices in here for sure. The last very impressive thing to mention is the Macintosh stereo that this has, again, in the launch edition as standard. And so that is going to give you 19 speakers and 1200 watts of power. And, again, just a very impressive stereo. I'm sure I haven't had a chance to sample it just yet, but hoping to, sample a little bit more here. And I'll be spending some time with one of these for a week, hopefully, once I get back home, to really kind of dig into, listening to a lot of music and seeing what it can do. But the Macintosh stereos and the other Wagoneers have been very impressive. I'm not expecting anything different here in this. Should be really, really good. And then moving on to the back seat here in the Wagoneer S. The one thing I think right off the bat that you'll notice when you hop in that back seat is this big double pane panoramic moonroof. And this is a key difference compared to most of the other competitors, that this actually opens up. Basically, everyone else just does a giant slab of glass that can't move, and having the actual open air feeling of, a functional moonroof is something that you don't get in most other EVs. And so it's really nice that you have that. It also has a cover, which is something that Model Y, for example, does not have. It's a power cover. You can close the whole thing off if you live in a hot place where you don't want to be, drowning in sunlight all the time. You can have that nice and closed up there if you'd like. And, just having those options are really important to some people. And it's really great that, Jeep kind of noticed what the competition was doing and what the competition was lacking, and then improved upon that and, answered some of those glaring deficiencies in those competitors. So love that. But anyway, getting into the back seat there, it's a good amount of space back there. So nice, soft, comfortable seats once again. And it's really notable that here in the launch edition, they're heated and they're ventilated as well. And I don't think anyone else can match the ventilation in this segment. There's some gas stuff like a Lexus RX that can offer ventilated rear seats, but that's a very rare thing in this segment. And in any segment. Honestly, there's some high-end exotics that don't even offer that. So that is really an impressive inclusion. And, you know, depending on how often you drive people in the back seat, that could be the deal maker right there, is just having cooled second row seats. It's awesome. They also, of course, have their own air vents and USB-C jacks back there, fold down center armrests with cup holders, and also pockets in the doors as well. Now, I'm 5'9", me sitting behind myself. I have several inches of legroom to spare there, so it's a pretty good amount of space. Now, by the numbers, it's about the same amount of backseat space as a Jeep Grand Cherokee, so very comparable if you're coming out of a Grand Cherokee, but it is about 2.5 inches less rear legroom than the Tesla Model Y. And so, you know, a little bit less there. Now, as far as headroom, you also lose about 2 inches of rear headroom compared to Grand Cherokee, so it will be a little tighter on the headroom side of things, again, thanks to it just being, you know, 6 inches lower overall for this vehicle. Honestly, the fact you only lost 2 inches of headroom is kind of impressive to me over Grand Cherokee, but, you know, just the only thing to, you know, keep in mind there as far as changes dimensionally there for that. Then moving on to the cargo space here in the Wagoneer S, it's a really good amount of space. It's very nice long space, nice and wide. And the big surprise is when I lifted up the floor there is a bunch of space. It's very deep, and you can fit, you know, probably a couple small duffel bags under there. I mean, it's really large, and so a really nice amount of space. There's even little, you know, grocery bag hooks there on it. And by the numbers as well, it's 30.6 cubic feet of space, which is a tiny bit more than a Model Y, actually. But it is about 7.1 cubic feet less space than the Grand Cherokee. I think most of that comes down to, again, the lower roof. And so the amount of stacking ability isn't as high in this as it is in a Grand Cherokee, potentially. But I think as far as length and width goes, you're very comparable, just, you know, eyeballing it there. And you also have another little bonus space under the front hood there, the frunk. You have 3 cubic feet of space, and obviously it's not huge. Maybe it'd be nice for holding a charging cable or, you know, other small little knickknacks. There is also a rubberized surface at the bottom that's removable, so if you want to throw, you know, dirty stuff in there, you can take that out and hose it off. And so it is a very nice versatile space there. And so overall though, I mean, this interior is very, very impressive. But let's start up and go for a drive. The Wagoneer S just has the regular Jeep key, nothing unique or special here, but you know, still a nice key. Has the metal on the sides there, and just a few buttons there in the back, and not too big of a key either, so not too bad. But of course, it is keyless access, keyless entry, and push button start. So just leave the key in your pocket, hit the little on button here, and it turns right on. All right, so setting off here in the Wagoneer S. So the first thing you notice about this vehicle, I think the first thing I noticed is, again, that nice low dashboard makes it really great for forward visibility. You can really see nice and easily. You have a pretty thin A-pillar here. Mirror is right there at the A-pillar, but because of the way it swoops down and it's kind of a little bit further out of the way there, it's not really in your way, and so I think it's really good forward visibility. View out of the back is really great, especially because here in the launch editions you have the camera rear view mirror as standard, so you know, it's always going to be an unobstructed view no matter what's going on behind you there. But even if you want to go without the camera and just use the regular mirror, it's, you know, a pretty good view. Obviously, again, we have a little bit more of a fastback profile here for this, but you know, it's totally fine as far as all that goes. Other things you notice about this, well, obviously being electric, it's nice and quiet. You don't hear anything really, and it's just, you know, very serene, and you know, it's going to be a really nice daily driver just from, you know, that refinement standpoint. Also, I don't really hear any road noise too much, and it's, you know, these roads here are pretty nice and well kept, but you know, overall, you know, pretty refined as far as that goes. Feels very luxurious, very premium, like you're expecting. One thing that I have noticed though a little bit, especially even going over like speed bumps and stuff, is that the ride quality is pretty good, but I feel like it could be a little smoother, and I feel like that is an area where the main competitor to this, really, the Cadillac Lyriq, I think does a better job of smoothing things over. We just have passive dampers here, and we have an integral link rear suspension. You know, it's nothing super advanced. It's fine, and a lot of the other EVs in the segment don't have advanced suspensions either. But you know, there's just been a few times where I've been like, that bump's a little rougher than I would like, you know, for something in this price category. But I'm really nitpicking here. It's going to be mostly fine, I think, and we'll continue to drive here and assess that throughout the course of the day here. Other things, though, that I'm really happy with is obviously being an electric vehicle, you have nice responsive throttle, but it's not overboard. It does nicely ramp up, and so it's not like some on-off switch like some other EVs where it really wants to rip your head off every chance it gets. This, it's nice and smooth with that progression there. Same thing goes for brakes. Really nicely blended brakes. That's something some other companies, even luxury companies, struggle with, doing well-calibrated brakes in EVs. And this, nice and progressive. It all feels very normal, and that was something that Jeep says they wanted everything to feel normal, where you can, still have the creeping available. If you want to creep up in traffic, you can have a bunch of regen and have a one pedal kind of thing if you want, or you can have it just coast, which is how I have it, and gives you that more traditional feel, so you're not forced into doing aggressive regen like Rivians, for example, make you do. It's just all very accessible. So if you're coming out of a Grand Cherokee or something like that into this, aside from the instant response, it's going to really feel honestly quite normal, aside from just the silence as well. But very user-friendly, very accessible, and easy to get accustomed to. Steering weight also, as we're going through some gentle little corners here, is really good. It's actually a little bit weightier than I was expecting. It's not overboard or anything, but it just feels like it's connected to something. It is, of course, electric power steering, but just actually gives you some nice feel, in my opinion. And so far, this like squared off wheel hasn't thrown me off either. Another cool thing too is you do have this blind spot camera. So whenever I have the turn signal on, it'll show me a nice large view of what is in my blind spot there, which is great. You also have all the other cameras and sensors, 360 cameras, all the different angles you could want. It has you all covered for that. So very easy to maneuver this vehicle, easy to park. Has a lot of automation, even has like an automated park feature, so you can just have it do that stuff for you if you'd like. I'll talk more about the other technology here for driving in a few minutes. But so as far as all the basics, it's all really well done. And now out on the highway here in the Wagoneer S, it's a really nice cruiser out here as well. I do have the active lane assist on, which is a hands-on system for now. It sounds like they are going to go to hands-free eventually, but as of right now for the launch editions, it is still a hands-on system. You still got to keep at least a couple fingers on the wheel, but it is doing that steering for me here largely on the highway, and it's combined with the adaptive cruise control system. All this stuff is standard, by the way, of course, being the fully loaded launch edition here, so you have all the usual stuff, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, automatic emergency braking, all these things are all standard. It also does have like drowsy driver detection, and again, has the intersection collision assist, so if it sees someone turning in front of you, it can also sense that in the front, in addition to the rear cross traffic. So all very advanced, all really state-of-the-art. The only thing that I will say is, at least as of right now, with this being a hands-on system, that is another area where Cadillac Lyriq offers Super Cruise, truly hands-free driving on the highway, as do some of the lower competitors. If you go to the non-premium stuff like the Mach-E, that is something that you can get out there, and I hope that Jeep does offer the hands-free thing soon here in this, so that you can have that parity with the competitors there. But it's doing a really good job. I'm going to need more time and more highway driving whenever I spend a week with one of these to really see how it does, especially on the windy highways in southwestern Pennsylvania where I live. Out here outside of San Diego, mostly straight highways, pretty easy for these systems, honestly, but it's doing a very good job here with it so far, and all very smooth. And so it's great. You got all the great safety tech, all the assistance you want, and of course, if you don't want any of this stuff, you don't have to have it on, but it's great that you have basically everything fully loaded. No option boxes to check like the German competitors often make you do. It's just, you get everything with a Jeep, and that's great. Alright, so I'm gonna do a stomp on the gas from a stop here on this nice little windy back road, and let's see how the Wagoneer S accelerates. Let me see, I got sport mode on, okay, and I was not expecting it to do a four-wheel peel on me. Alright. Well, that is fun. So yes, the Wagoneer S has 600 400 horsepower, 617 pound-feet of torque. They do a 3.4 second 0 to 60 mile per hour time, and that means that it is actually 0.1 second faster than the Jeep Grand Cherokee Trackhawk, the Hellcat-powered insanity of many years ago now. This is faster than that. And man, I was not expecting that. I guess I should, because, you know, this is on the same STLA large platform as the Dodge Charger, uses electric motors, copied over from that vehicle as well in many ways. And so I knew that loved to light up the tires too, and this is doing that same thing. It also is partially because we only have 235 wide all-season tires on this thing as well. So, you know, this is kind of in the same vein as like the Tesla Model Y Performance, where it's more so about straight line acceleration than it is about actual grip and handling. Again, because we just have regular passive dampers, we have a curb weight of 5,667 pounds, I believe, as well. So it's weighty. We do have some, you know, corners here. We'll be able to try out the handling a little bit, but I'm fully aware of the fact that I have just 235 wide, non-sporty all seasons, and you know, over 5,600 pounds of weight. So very much, you know, a vehicle you have to be a little cautious with deploying the power. Now the nice thing is you have pretty nice sized brakes. They're 13.9 inch rotors for both the front and the rear. It's really rare when the rear rotors are the same size as the front, but that's the case here for this. We have two piston calipers in the front, one in the rear. Steering is nice in Sport Plus, or in the Sport mode here. Sport mode also gives you a little bit of a faster throttle, and it also turns off traction control. So we will give it our best effort here. Obviously you still have stability control on, but just the traction control to allow you to light up those tires is, you know, only possible here in that Sport mode. We got some tighter corners coming up though, and again, I'm gonna be safe here, but gonna see what we can do. Okay, yeah, it's actually, honestly, it's handling better than I thought it would, to be completely honest. And it definitely wants to understeer though. If you get on the gas too early, it's just gonna plow. So you have to be very judicious with your deploying of the power here. But it's doing, yeah, it's wagging the tail a tiny bit in the back there. It's playful, but it's dynamic. It's honestly pretty good. And, you know, the nice thing about tires too is it's very easy to do a tire upgrade. You can put on a summer tire, you can put on even, you know, like a Michelin Pilot Sport all season or something like that to give you more grip and fix, you know, those shortcomings very easily. Wow, yeah, this thing is actually doing a really good job here. I'm really impressed with how this is driving. This is a very nice windy road, and it's really handling it very well, better than I expected. So I have to hand it to him, pulling off this kind of handling with this kind of weight and, you know, these kind of tires. I'm very impressed. Obviously, being an electric vehicle, you have a nice low center of gravity with that skateboard platform pretty much. So all the mass is right there, you know, nice and low. So that certainly does help you. But this thing is actually more dynamic than I was expecting. So obviously, it's a Wagoneer. It's still a luxurious thing and all that. And I will say that, you know, with the brand new Lyric V that was just announced, you know, that's got Brembo brakes and wider tires. You know, if you are someone who wants a luxury EV that has, you know, very similar performance, horsepower is, you know, almost identical to this, although that does have more torque. But you know, if you want something that handles a little bit better, I think, you know, Lyric V is probably going to be a little bit of a better performer. But if you are, you know, just wanting that straight line punch with all the luxury of the Wagoneer here, I mean, this is going to do that. But, you know, just know that whenever you're on a windy back road, it will actually keep up with you pretty well. I'd love to see what one of these things would do on some proper tires though. Some summer tires would be great to see. But yeah, very impressed with that. Now, moving beyond the performance component here, I'll go ahead and put it back into the auto mode here, the regular mode. As far as drive modes, by the way, there is also eco, and then there's snow and sand modes. So allows you to custom tailor the driving experience, but the car is smart enough, you leave it in auto, and that'll be able to figure out, you know, what you need to do as well. But so as far as the electrical components here of Wagoneer S, obviously very important. So it has a 100.5 kilowatt hour battery. That is gross capacity. That's going to be a little bit less, but as far as, you know, the range, it's going to do 303 miles of range, and that is a marked improvement over, for example, Lyric V, which, you know, fails to crack into the 300s there because of those wider tires. You know, I think that is one of the the reasons they probably went for these 235s. You have the skinnier tires, less rolling resistance, you're able to get those better range numbers. And again, how many people are actually, you know, flying around a back road in something like this anyway? I think Jeep made the right choice, you know, going for the 235s. Honestly, I'd love to see a performance pack or a track hawk version of this someday, to, you know, give you a little bit more, because we do know, obviously with Charger, you know, that platform has the capacity for more power. So, you know, it'd be fun to see someday for those who do want a little bit of an edgier, you know, sport electric crossover here. But yeah, so I mean, that's, you know, a really good amount of range. It'll be over 300 miles of range. It also is pretty good with the recharge rates. It'll do a peak charge rate of 175 kilowatt hours. And they say that you can do a 20% to 80% charge in 23 minutes approximately. And so, you know, from an EV standpoint, that's all very good. It's also worth noting this is still a CCS port. I'm assuming we will get the NACS port at some point. That could come as soon as 2025, could come later. We don't know as of the time of me filming this. But, you know, just keep in mind it is still, you know, CCS there for now. So yeah, I think from an electric standpoint, you know, for, you know, early 2025 here, that is very impressive range. Again, especially with this much power. A lot of competitors that are doing this kind of power, again, they go down in range. And some of the even sportiest stuff, if you really want to get into the sportier stuff, like the Hyundai Ioniq 5N, you know, that is very similar amounts of power, a lot more handling, and because of that, those wider tires, you know, that's a vehicle that, you know, doesn't even get close to 300 miles of range. So, you know, I think it's really a cool combo the way they set this up. And, you know, most of these roads here are still continuing to be nice and smooth. But, you know, we're going over little potholes and manhole covers and things like that. And it is still very smooth. It is completely fine, I think, from a ride quality standpoint. And the last thing to mention here is the pricing and how it compares to the competition. So as far as pricing goes, these are going to be starting at $72,000, including destination. And for the launch edition here, it's basically fully loaded. The only options you can get are the red interior, which is $1,000 extra, the premium paint, which is like $500 or so, and there's a tow package, I think, for also about $1,000. So if you max one of these things out, I think they said you can get basically almost to 75 grand, but at 72, you basically have everything pretty much. And so at that price point, it's kind of an interesting position. It kind of splits the difference between the non-premium stuff, and then the other premium stuff on the other end is a lot higher. So as of the time of filming this, you know, we just saw the new Model Y, the refresh for the Tesla Model Y, but we don't know about a performance version of that. That'll probably come later in 2025 at some point. As of right now, the old one for the performance one is $60,000, and does very similar straight line performance. And so that is, you know, coming in a lot less expensive than this. Again, I think that pricing will go upward for the, you know, refreshed version. But as of right now, it's a, you know, a pretty decent gap there. And as far as, you know, what you get though for your money, you know, this has more screens, this has the cooled second row seats, you have the cover for the moonroof you don't get in the Model Y. You know, this moonroof actually opens versus just a fixed piece of glass. You have the Macintosh stereo here in this, way more impressive than the regular standard, you know, Tesla stereo. More soft touch materials here. You have the massage you don't get in the Tesla either. Just so many extra things you get, and that's why it's like, you know, sure, I guess we can consider Tesla possibly as being premium, but I think it really, that more so competes with the mainstream stuff. And on that lower end, you do have like the Chevy Blazer SS EV coming here this year finally as well. That does similar straight line acceleration, also has the wider tires, so probably will handle better than this. And those do come in, you know, I think right around 62 or so. And then you even have like Mach-E GT, which is faster here for 24 and 25, and that is going to be doing like 700 pound-feet of torque in this performance pack version, and those are like mid-50s. So I mean, you're way under this, but again, you don't have a lot of the features. 25 does introduce cooled seats for the Mach-E, so at least that is finally something that you'll be able to get. But you still have no cover for the moonroof in the Mach-E either. No heated or cooled second row seats. You know, it's a lot less luxury. You know, not nearly as padded for all the surfaces. The Mach-E, you know, just has a giant tablet and calls it a day. As far as, you know, dashboard design, like I talked about earlier, I love the integration here you have in this. And so, you know, it just comes down to, again, how much premium do you want? I think this definitely elevates itself with that extra feature content, with the extra polish, the extra luxury. And so, you know, whenever you look at the upper end, again, we have Lyric V, for example. That's going to be 80 grand, and that's, you know, going to be, you know, a lot more expensive. But for that extra money, not only do you get the better handling of the Lyric V, but that also does give you Super Cruise. And Super Cruise is fantastic. It's my favorite hands-free system. I think most people agree it's the best hands-free system out there currently. If you do a lot of highway driving, you know, having the difference between having your hands on the wheel and having them resting on your lap is a real game changer once you actually experience it, and, you know, experience it for hours on end. And so, you know, it's just going to come down to, again, how much performance you want. Lyric V is ever so slightly faster, about like 1/10 of a second, and a tiny bit more horsepower and torque. But, you know, it does come at a premium. So I think that Jeep really positioned themselves well. You know, if you are cross-shopping this with, you know, the Ford and the Chevy, then sure, this is going to come at a premium, but you do get more for your money. But then, you know, it's going to be way cheaper. And you look at all the other, like, German competitors, like BMW iX, for its sportier M version, you know, that's going to come in way above the price point of this. Rivian R1S is way above the price point of this. Macan Electric, even for the slow versions, is more expensive than this. And then, you know, you go for an actual faster version of the Macan Electric, you know, you're 6 figures. So it's a huge value proposition, depending on how you look at it and how you view this, and whether this feels premium enough to actually go up against those luxury competitors in your mind, or if it's, you know, more so competing with the other stuff, then it's just you get more features for your money, and that's what, you know, you use to justify the extra pricing there over those lower competitors. But overall, I'm very, very impressed with this. And by the way, these are already on sale. They just started arriving at dealers, and the first deliveries have already begun here for these. But I'm going to do one last acceleration here because it's just too much fun. Here we go. That one's rolling. It still takes off, and it's so funny too, because even though the motors are basically the same front and rear, I do feel a little bit of a, you know, torque steer kind of sensation through the front wheels here, you know, with the steering kind of wanting to twitch on me a little bit there. But this is one of the EVs where you cannot accelerate subtly. You're going to let everyone know around you that you are flying. Obviously, you could probably, again, get that traction control back on, and it would hold back. Well, actually, before we go, let's just try that just for kicks. Let's accelerate with traction control on and see if we can be a little more subtle with our accelerations here. So I'm gonna slow down about 15 or so. Nope. There it lit up traction control and it was saying it was trying to clamp down, but it doesn't hold back. It lets you have it no matter what mode you're in. So be warned, this is not going to be a subtle EV if you want to be racing around everywhere. But oh man, I love it though. I love that, you know, this feels very, you know, FCA, very Mopar-ish to have, you know, your Jeep Wagoneer S here doing burnouts every time you slam on the gas. That's awesome. I love it. Don't ever change Jeep. I love it. So anyway, that's all of my thoughts here on the Wagoneer S. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. Huge thanks to Jeep for providing me here with this opportunity to review the Wagoneer S for you guys today, and bringing me out here to Calabasas, California here to try this out. And yeah, let me know your thoughts on the Wagoneer S in the comments below. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.